Before survival films became a Hollywood trend, Jeremiah Johnson stood alone, a tale of isolation, revenge, and the brutal beauty of the American frontier. But behind its quiet mountains and wind-swept snow lies a world of strange production stories, dangerous accidents, and secrets that shaped Robert Redford's most haunting role today. We're diving into 20 weird facts about this 1972 classic you never knew. So sit tight, subscribe if you love hidden Hollywood history, and let's head into the mountains. Fact 20. Redford lived alone in the wilderness to prepare Robert. Redford didn't just play a mountain man. He became one before filming. He vanished for days into the Utah mountains with nothing but a rifle, flint, and minimal supplies. He wanted to understand silence, hunger, and cold, the way real trappers did. Crew members later said Redford came back quieter, slower, and wild around the eyes. That experience gave Jeremiah Johnson his authenticity, the calm of a man who has fought nature and lost. Then fought again. Fact 19. The movie was almost impossible to film. The production team battled blizzards, sudden thaws, frozen equipment, and temperature swings that shattered lenses. Some days they'd arrive to a set completely buried under fresh snow, literally erased overnight. Director Sidney Pollack said the mountain wanted to kill the movie at least 6 times, but the chaos created magic. The real breath, the real frostbite, the real exhaustion you see on screen aren't acting. They are nature's signature on the film. Fact 18. Redford did nearly all his own stunts. From skinning fish to wrestling a live horse in icy water, Redford insisted on performing everything himself. He dragged logs, climbed cliffs, survived freezing rivers, and fired real black powder rifles. Stunt coordinators warned him constantly about injuries, but Redford shrugged it off, saying the danger helped him stay in character. At one point, he even refused a body double for a scene involving a steep, snowy descent, sliding down himself, bruising his ribs, but nailing the shot. If you love commitment like this, hit subscribe. More wild facts ahead. Fact 17. The script was only half written. During filming, director Sidney Pollack admitted that large sections of the movie were made up on the spot. Because budget and weather constantly changed, they had to adapt every day. Many of the film's best scenes, including Johnson's silent reactions, long walks across snow, and small character beats, were improvisations born from necessity. Pollack later said, "The mountain wrote the script with us." Ironically, the looseness gave the movie its poetic rhythm, a journey told through gaps, glances, and the quiet language of survival. Fact 16. The frozen corpses were real people, sort of. When Johnson discovers a family slaughtered by Crow warriors, the bodies look unnervingly realistic. That's because they were casts of real people, life-sized molds made with painstaking detail right down to wrinkles and scars. The crew stored them in snowbanks between takes so they wouldn't melt or deform. Locals who stumbled onto the set genuinely thought they'd found actual victims and panicked. The sheriff received multiple calls. Pollack joked that the town learned to expect dead bodies when Hollywood visited. Fact 15. A real grizzly bear nearly turned the scene into a disaster. The iconic bear attack wasn't staged with animatronics or rubber props. The crew used a real 700-pound grizzly trained by legendary handler Lynn "Bearman" Voss. But even trained bears follow instincts, not direction. During filming, the bear lunged closer than rehearsed, causing Redford to slip in the snow and genuinely panic. The camera operator froze in fear, yet kept filming because Pollack whispered, "Don't cut. This is gold." Crew members hid behind rocks and wagons with tranquilizer guns they hoped they'd never need. After the scene, Redford admitted the bear smelled so strong he couldn't breathe, and that his trembling hands on camera weren't acting. They were pure survival. That real fear is why the sequence still feels primal, chaotic, and terrifyingly alive. Fact 14. The crew had to trek through brutal terrain just to reach the filming locations. Many scenes were shot in places where no roads existed, meaning cast, and crew had to ride horseback for hours. Just to reach set equipment didn't fare better. Generators, dollies, lights, and huge Panavision cameras were strapped onto mules that would often wander off in the night one morning. A mule carrying lenses toppled down a slope, and the crew spent half a day recovering glass from the snow. Pollock later said the movie felt less like a production and more like a military campaign. Actors rehearsed lines while gasping for air because of altitude sickness, and makeup artists struggled to keep prosthetics from freezing. But those untouched mountaintops gave the film its mythic realism, with landscapes so raw they looked like memories carved into stone. Fact 13. The Crow Nation shaped the film's authenticity from the inside out. Instead of relying on Hollywood stereotypes, Pollock and Redford invited cultural advisors from the Crow Nation to review language, rituals, beadwork, face paint, and even the spiritual symbolism behind certain scenes. The Crow consultants rejected multiple early costume designs as tourist versions of history and rebuilt them using traditional stitching and patterns. Many Crow individuals appeared as extras, choosing to portray their ancestors with restraint and dignity. One elder told Redford, "A mountain is alive if you listen long enough." That line impacted him so deeply he repeated it in interviews for years. Their involvement is why the film's native representation feels quieter, more respectful, and more human than most westerns of the era. Fact 12. Fire scenes were a nightmare because high altitude kills flames. The film features dozens of campfire scenes, but at 9,000 feet elevation, flames behave like stubborn children. Wood refused to burn, fires sputtered out in the cold wind, and smoke often blew directly into the camera lens. The crew developed a bizarre routine: wake up before dawn, chop piles of wood, stack hidden fire pits, and feed flames constantly just to keep the background alive. On particularly windy days, they hid mini propane tubes under rocks to maintain consistent fire height. Redford joked that he smelled like smoke for 3 months straight and that he had campfire permanently embedded in his skin. These flames weren't just props. They were characters in the movie, symbols of warmth clinging to life in an unforgiving landscape. Fact 11. Pollock and Redford's creative battles fueled the film's emotional power. Although great friends, the harsh shoot pushed Pollock and Redford into constant arguments. They clashed about Johnson's silence, about the film's pacing, and especially about how much emotion Johnson should reveal in moments of grief. Redford wanted subtlety. Pollock wanted clarity. One argument became so intense that Redford disappeared into the snowy woods alone, returning hours later calmer but ice-covered. Pollock later admitted those conflicts gave the film its depth. The push and pull added tension to Johnson's character, who is torn between rage, loneliness, and acceptance. Their disagreements carved the movie into something quiet yet powerful, as if the mountains themselves were deciding how the story should be told. If you're loving these deep dive facts, hit subscribe. More wilderness secrets are coming. Fact 10. The cabin explosion was so real, the crew thought Redford died. When Johnson's homestead is burned and destroyed, the fire was not created with visual effects. The crew built a full cabin and blew it up with real explosives and controlled fire lines. But wind gusts unexpectedly shifted the flames right as Redford approached the set for his entrance. For several seconds, smoke swallowed him completely, and cameras kept rolling because the moment looked so raw. Crew members panicked, yelling for him, and Pollock nearly cut the shot. Suddenly, Redford emerged through the black smoke, exactly like the scene demanded, exhausted, heartbroken, and covered in real soot. That unplanned chaos became the emotional centerpiece of the movie, a moment where the actor and character both walked through the ashes of loss. Fact 9. The film's most emotional scene was improvised on the spot. The quiet moment when Johnson buries frozen bodies in the snow wasn't fully scripted. Redford suggested they let silence do the acting. No music, no explanation, no dramatic monologue. Pollock agreed, telling the crew to stay far back and capture the moment from a distance. What you see is Redford genuinely struggling to dig through solid ice with numb hands, while the wind howled across the mountain. His quiet sighs, his pauses, the way he bows his head, none of that was rehearsed. It was a man facing the cruelty of nature without any cinematic safety nets. Pollock later said that single scene captured the movie's soul. Survival is not heroic, it's lonely. Fact 8. Horses nearly caused a fatal accident during a river crossing. For the river scenes, Pollock demanded realism, meaning the actors and horses had to cross actual freezing rapids. One horse slipped on slick stones mid-shot, dragging its rider sideways into the current. Redford immediately dove toward them, shouting for handlers. The current was strong enough that it pulled the horse downstream until wranglers sprinted into the water to rescue it. The rider suffered mild hypothermia, and the chute shut down for a full day to dry costumes, equipment, and film reels that got soaked. Pollock kept the final wide shot because the raw danger added authenticity. The mountain didn't care about stunt protocols. Fact 7. The weather was so brutal. The crew invented a new filmmaking technique. Mountain conditions changed so fast that the continuity team couldn't keep up. One minute skies were bright blue. The next, they were buried beneath sudden snow. Pollock solved the problem by creating what the crew jokingly called the Johnson method. Shoot scenes in every direction before the weather changed. They would film reverse angles, close-ups, and wide shots in a single continuous burst, sprinting between setups. Redford said the shoot felt like acting inside a tornado of cameras. But this frantic style gave the movie its fluid, dreamlike rhythm, as if Johnson's journey was shaped by the unpredictable moods of nature itself. Fact 6. Jeremiah Johnson became a hit because of word of mouth, not the studio. Warner Brothers didn't understand the film and barely marketed it. They thought it was too quiet, too slow, too bleak, but audiences felt something different. A raw honesty missing from Hollywood Westerns hunters, outdoorsmen, and Vietnam veterans embraced the movie's themes of isolation and survival. Local theaters reported packed screenings purely from people recommending it to friends. One critic wrote, "It spreads like smoke from a campfire. Slow, steady, and impossible to ignore." The film's grassroots success turned Jeremiah Johnson into an unlikely cult classic and cemented Redford as the face of rugged American cinema. Fact 5. The bear attack scene was filmed with a real trained grizzly. Yes, that massive charging bear wasn't a puppet or a guy in a suit. It was Bart the bear's predecessor, a trained grizzly famous in early 70s Hollywood. The crew built a hidden rail system behind the camera so the bear's trainer could guide it using meat rewards. Redford stood only a few feet from the animal for wide shots, with nothing but a tree between them. You can actually see Redford's real reaction when the grizzly lets out a roar louder than the microphones could handle. The sound spike distorted the tape, but Pollock kept it because the fear on Redford's face wasn't acting, it was survival instinct. Fact 4. The movie worked so well that Redford and Pollock fought Hollywood to keep it quiet. Executives wanted more gunfights, more speeches, more dramatic music, classic Western formula, but Pollock and Redford insisted the film remain minimalist, with long pauses, natural sounds, and almost spiritual silence. They fought studio notes for months, refusing to add action for the sake of action. Pollock even removed several composed music cues to keep scenes feeling lonely and cold. Their stubbornness paid off. The film's simplicity became its identity, a story that didn't scream for attention but pulled you in like a campfire on a frozen night. Fact 3. That famous final scene was never fully explained on purpose. The ending, where Johnson silently raises his hand to the mountain man, was designed to feel mysterious and unresolved. Pollock believed that a man who loses everything to the wilderness shouldn't have a neat Hollywood conclusion. Redford said he intentionally played the moment with quiet exhaustion rather than triumph. The handshake-like gesture between the two men sparked debates for decades. Was it respect? Surrender? A farewell? Redford has been asked hundreds of times, but refuses to explain it, saying, "If you understood the whole journey, you don't need me to decode the ending." It means what you survived to see. And yes, Pollock confirmed the ambiguity was intentional. Fact 2. The film had one of the most dangerous shoots in 1970s: Hollywood frostbite, altitude sickness, blizzards, collapsing snowbanks. The cast and crew endured all of it. Redford performed nearly every stunt himself, from climbing icy slopes to wading through rivers so cold that costume fabric froze solid between takes. One cameraman fainted during a mountaintop scene due to thin air. Pollock later admitted that if the film were made today, strict safety rules would have shut down half the production. But back then, it was raw movie making at the edge of civilization. Their suffering is literally captured in the footage. Every breath is real. Fact 1. The real mountain man who inspired the film had an even wilder story. Jeremiah Johnson was loosely based on John "Liver-Eating" Johnston, a hunter and trapper known for brutal revenge tales during the 1800s. The film softened his legend dramatically. The real man was rumored to walk hundreds of miles in winter, fight entire groups alone, and survive impossible odds. Redford said he didn't want to glorify violence, so he portrayed Johnson as a man shaped by the land, not consumed by rage. But hints of the real Johnston show up: the stoic silence, the hardened bravery, and the strange moments of dark humor. The myth blended with the movie, turning Jeremiah Johnson into a folk hero of American cinema. Jeremiah Johnson isn't just a film. It's a cold, wind-battered meditation on solitude, grief, and endurance. The crew risked their safety, the actors froze their bones, and the mountains allowed them just enough mercy to tell the story. That's why the movie feels alive, as if the wilderness itself was a character shaping every frame. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the wild, behind-the-scenes world of Jeremiah Johnson, make sure to subscribe. More hidden Hollywood journeys are waiting just beyond the next ridge.